How do you understand the role and the function of schools in educating the children in their walls about race, broadly speaking?
Sure. Yeah, public education in the US, and I'll just limit it to public education, is rot, right? It on one hand, it's a space where public schools in general are spaces ideally where people from different backgrounds can come together um, and learn how to kind of just be with each other. That's ideal, right? Um, Kind of officially, public schools in the US have been places where people who are from different walks of life learn to become Americans, learn to become citizens in U.S. society, and that is not a neutral process, right? And it's not a abstract goal. So when we say that we need public schools to help people learn how to be members of American society, that it's again, it's rot with um, how have we defined what it means to be an American? That's always been contested. It's even more so now, right? Well, while where we sit with the January 6th Commission, and the very presidency was just contested, and we've witnessed sedition, right? So this notion of who is a citizen and what it means to be a citizen is never, we haven't quite settled that, and so schools have always been in a process of trying to figure again out what is their role in this experiment of American democracy. Um, and so I say that it's unfinished because we just haven't agreed. We haven't agreed on what kids should learn, who should be able to go to school, how do we pay for school, um, and we're constantly having those wars, which is why we're having these battles. So why we're kind of having this discussion where we thought it was settled that we agreed and celebrated that we lived in a multicultural society, and that we would recognize and celebrate and affirm the identities and the histories of the multiple people that are here. And yet now we're at a space where we can only talk about American history in a certain kind of arc and framing. Um, and that, we have states that have, Texas for one, have said that when we talk about American slavery, we can't call people who were enslaved, we can't say that they were enslaved. We can say that they were they were involuntary workers, right? They were visiting, they were brought here, not without violence and oppression, but they were just here to do work. And you know um, so schools, I think it's both the beauty of American democracy and the tragedy of American democracy, because we can't all agree on what the function of public schools should be and can be, um, and we in many ways suffer for that, and our kids do as well. And it's challenging as an educator across the spectrum. So I sit at a university where we in some places in Ohio, it's there's legislation that you can't actually in higher ed teach about critical race theory. At the University of Illinois, we've been somewhat shielded, but that's all kind of tenuous. If we get if the leadership in our state changes, that could be on the auction block. And so I think that what our students learn is that education is very political, that it's unsettled, that it's tenuous, and I think we've learned that has been a kind of consistent lesson all the way through. And I've been asked kind of there isn't we haven't settled on an official multicultural curriculum. Even Howard Zinn's work is ironically is some people see it as controversial, that that we can't talk about multiple histories and multiple perspectives, that we need to have kind of one story, and this story about American exceptionalism. And I think that that is to the detriment of our kind of public schooling systems across the US. So